Thomas K. Tolmie, Tolmie.
Perfect. And now you live in Great Falls, Montana.
Correct.
And you told me you were drafted. Do you remember getting the notice?
Welcome, I believe. But to report to such and such a place, which I did. I was I adhered to all that they suggested. I didn't object. In fact, I was rather glad that I had been conducted into the service.
Were you in Illinois at the time?
No, I was in Philadelphia.
So you've moved around a bit.
Oh, gosh. My father was an engineer, and he lived in Milwaukee and Denver, Washington, D.C., Denver, innumerable places.
You got to see a lot of this country then,
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
you? What were you doing in Philadelphia at the time?
Going to high school.
You were a boy.
Yeah, I was 16 and 17. And then when I hit 18, I was ready for the Army.
Were they ready for you?
They took me.
So where'd you go in at?
Fort, oh golly, I can't remember.
Were there other boys of your friends that were going in at the same time? A whole bunch of you at the same time?
Yes, we were all examined medically and passed. I don't remember any of my friends going through that with me. But
But you were in high school when you heard about the bombing of Pearl Harbor then, weren't you?
oh yeah,
Did you talk about it a lot in school?
not too much. I think we were lethargic. It was just a sort of an upset. I was sorry that it happened, but I felt no great animosity for the Japs doing that. So it happened. It happened.
Of course, all the news before that was probably in Europe, right? All the war news was...
Yeah, and then Roosevelt asked Congress to declare war. That was the next day or two. I remember that very well.
Did your family like Roosevelt?
My father worked for the Democratic Party, so he had to play ball.
He knew how to sing Happy Days Are Here Again?
I guess so.
Yeah. So you went in boot camp. Was it as bad as it sounds?
It was really rough. It demanded an awful lot. Hikes, calisthenics, close order drill. I went to Camp Pickett, Virginia, and I was put on cadre because I was quite good at close order drill and taking orders, because in high school in Rockford, Illinois, one of my many high schools, I learned close order drill, and I was good at it. You know, left, right, left of the left flank, and all that, and they kept me on as cadre. And then I went to Fort Benjamin Harrison in Indianapolis, trained as a medical technician.
Now, why did they think you'd be a good medical technician? Or is it something you requested?
I think they thought that because I expressed my interests in medical school, and that was my intent. Of course, I never went to medical school.
But so you got medical training. And so were you trained as a full medic then? I don't know.
Yeah, not as a field medic,
Okay.
just a medic.
What did you think you would be doing with that?
I thought I would be working in a field hospital in surgery, like a surgical technician and so forth. But being put in a infantry outfit certainly was the antithesis of that. So,
How in the world did that ever happen? You had the medical training, the technician
well,
training.
that's the Army. So,
It's not the last of missteps they've made for you, huh?
well, I made such a good grade. I made a 98 grade. They figured, well, these smartasses, excuse the expression, ought to make a good aid man. And I was, on D-Day alone. I suppose 25 or anywhere between 25 and 50 men I took care of, or as best I could. But so many of them were so badly wounded. It was, they were screaming for their mothers, and arms off, legs off, completely bodies severed, and really rough.
Did you know about the invasion? Did you know that's what you were going to be doing before you were there?
Yeah, we were in a place in France getting ready for it. We were there for about 4 days. They issued us French paper money and told us and had where we were going to land, what our objective was, along with the 16th, because I was assigned to 1st Platoon, 16th Infantry. And then after that, we had objectives, but hardly knew what they were. The higher-ups did.
Mm-hmm. So in general, you were supposed to get on the land, get out of the boat, get on the land.
Get on the land and take care of anybody that was wounded.
So they were still using you in a medical kind of capacity?
Oh, yes.
And you were stationed in France. How long had you been in France before this?
Well, immediately.
Oh, so you were just staged in France. Had you been in England before this?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was your first posting overseas was?
It was in England, where they trained us for mock giving first aid, which was thoroughly inadequate, because the only real thing is the real thing. But I knew pretty well what to do.
Did instincts just kick in when you were on that beach?
Yeah, it really did.
Were you the first wave off, or?
I've always wondered, when I got there, there were bodies all over the beach, some half alive, and I couldn't do much. Maybe a tourniquet or two with legs off, and well, for people with half their face gone, you couldn't do much for them.
Did they give you painkillers enough, or?
I didn't have enough syrettes of morphine. I ran out of them.
Probably pretty fast.
Yeah.
So you had to do a quick triage.
Yeah.
Every step.
Triage meaning 3.
Yeah, or figuring out who you could help, who you couldn't help, who was beyond help.
Mm-hmm.
Were you alone doing this? Was there a group of you?
No, I was alone. Everybody would be calling for a medic. In fact, other outfits would be calling for a medic, because their medic was killed or went into absolute shock.
Or busy.
Or busy, yeah.
Not enough medics, I bet.
There weren't. Absolutely not. And then the howitzers and the artillery and mortar fire subsided, and we were able to get in and climb the hills. There were slopes, more or less, not mountains, but Omaha Beach was where first the infantry landed. And they caught hell, I think, throughout the whole invasion. That beach hit it worst. We went up that slope, and boy, they pounded that. And then when the Germans stopped, we came down and passed a lagoon that had been filled at high tide with seawater. Walked through that, then out of that, and up another hill that was more rugged than the hill we first went up. And then it became, the Germans pulled out. There were so many of us, they just couldn't maintain a defense. Thank God we had so many of us.
Did you actually see them retreating then? I mean, could you see them pulling back?
No. We saw evidence of it. They left their small arms fire. They left their guns, the ammo. They just took off.
Did they set up another line behind that
Yeah,
then?
they did, but only in the form of pockets. They didn't. Yeah, just in the form of pockets, you'd see a German or a bunker here and one there, and they'd fire at us, and they thought a valiant fight. They must have known I couldn't win. And then on come the paratroopers from their rear. So that put the kibosh on any, we sort of a pincer movement. And then they really took off and got organized, where they had some sort of a front, but they were very confused.
They hadn't expected the landing there.
They expected it, but not really on Omaha Beach. They expected landing all along the north shore of France. Geez, I can't forget to remember so much.
It must have gotten quiet when they decided to retreat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in my mind, it's real noisy, and then
Oh, yeah. Terrible noise. And screaming mimes, as we call them. They went, oh, oh, oh. Hundreds of them. And they must have zeroed in, knowing where the good targets would be. Would we land? And we did.
and kept landing.
Just kept landing.
Mm-hmm. Thousands of you landing on that beach.
Yeah.
And then you had to climb hills. You must have been bone tired.
No, I was full of verve. To put it mildly, I stayed much alive, and something told me to take care of these people, you know. And then as we got into France, it became even less traumatic, because the Germans took off miles and tried to form a line. And they were all balled up too, thank heavens. And that's about all as far as D-Day is concerned.
But the training you had, while it couldn't prepare you for this, at least you were able to help some other folks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I refused to see the movie Saving Patrick Ryan. I didn't want to. I still have dreams of D-Day. And what a
One
mess.
doesn't just forget that, does it? Do you?
You can't. You can't. And which bothered me so much, not understanding at the time, but my father wanted to know what it was like, so I was vociferous as I could be, and he waved his hand and said, "You got to forget about that. That's water under the bridge."
He didn't want you to hurt
he
anymore.
He didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
When I sent the Silver Star Medal home, he negated it, not denied it. Not that, I mean that he negated it, but he put it to one side and meant nothing to him, or a slight acknowledgement, I would say. And when I met him, when I came home, all I got was, hi. I wanted him to hug me and thank me and tell me how glad he was to see me alive. Because I had 3 stripes here for overseas, and then the Silver Star and good conduct, and 3 stars for Normandy, northern France, the Rhineland, Germany. I looked like a bouquet.
A lot of salad on your.
Yeah. And he didn't ask what that meant or this meant. I in a way, fought the war, was there for, I hoped for the pride of my father. I was in love with my father. I thought he was just wonderful. And what a disappointment.
You just couldn't do it.
No, I couldn't do it. But I understand, not having been there, he couldn't do it.
Couldn't understand it.
Couldn't understand it.
Probably didn't want to see his boy so hurt.
Probably what?
It was probably hard on him seeing you so hurt.
Yeah, well, I hadn't changed to my knowledge. I put up front happy and like I always had been. But at night I would dream and pretty rough.
Yeah.
And I felt shame too, because when we got into the Hurtgen line, into the Siegfried line, I cracked up. That was about 3 months, I guess, of combat and somebody being hit, if not every day, every other day. And I cried and I went to pieces completely. I had no control of it.
Sure.
The matter came from my nose. On my chest, I was a mess. I couldn't take it anymore.
Well, you were taking care of all those.
Yeah, I just couldn't take it. I could cry right now.
Yeah. They didn't train people to help the medics, did they?
No.
They trained the medics to help the soldiers, but
Yeah.
nobody was there to train the medics.
Yeah.
I imagine you think about it a lot.
That's what
I imagine you think about it a lot.
I do. Yeah, particularly good friends that I buddied up with. And you build a rapport with those people, but they're soon to be forgotten, even though they're killed, because there's always somebody else.
Did you keep up with any of these fellows, the ones that survived after
No.
the war?
No, I wanted nothing to do with
Just
it.
cut yourself off.
I drank.
You
That's
and a
what
lot
I-
of them. Yep.
That's what I did. I became
Self-medicating. Mm-hmm.
some self-treatment.
Yep. But then you weren't done. They didn't let you go home after D-Day.
Oh no,
No, they kept you there for a while.
they kept me over. They diagnosed me as, they didn't have a diagnosis of PTSD. Sent me to England. I was in the hospital there for 2.5 months, I believe. And enjoyed being in France. Particularly, I was stationed near Paris. Whoop-de-doo. with
There's
all
better
the-
ways to see
with all the
Paris.
girls and all the booze. But then I volunteered to become a dental technician, because one of the dental technicians in this replacement depot felt guilty that he hadn't been in combat. And he volunteered, and I was the one that was picked to replace him. So I was doing that for about, can't remember, 3 months.
Still in England?
Back in France.
Oh, back in France, sorry. Okay.
And then they organized us, and depending upon points, so many points for each month that you're over there. Silver Star was very high on the points towards being to go, and which I was grateful for too.
Yeah.
And going back to my father, my feelings were just devastated, because he didn't. I mailed beforehand what he was to receive, the medal and the case it came in, with the note on the bottom with the citation, and I'll be damned if he didn't throw it away. And he hardly greeted me when I came home, as I explained before. Hi. So,
Had he been demonstrative before that?
never was demonstrative, except that shook my hand. I'm proud of you. You're going not the Silver Star, but the going into the Army. And when I got a 98 grade on my final tests at Benjamin Harrison in Indiana. When I got that, he was very proud, being almost ahead of the class.
He could understand that, though.
Yeah, it was academic.
Yeah, he knew that. He just didn't know this war stuff at all. did
No,
he?
no, because he went to college, University of Illinois, and grades were everything. If you excel with your grades, you're really something.
Training parents is a hard job, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
But I later understood,
Did you?
and I forgave him, although I almost hated him for treating me with nonchalance.
You expect the hero's welcome.
At least a hug. At least a hug.
Who else was home when you got home?
My mother,
Yeah. What was her reaction?
about the same.
They were stoic people, weren't they?
Yes. I went to Junior College of Connecticut in Bridgeport. Paid for it myself. I could have gotten a citation by being paid for it, but I decided to pay my own money. I wanted to save my benefits for the University of Illinois. Well, I got drunk one night and overslept and missed an exam. And my mother woke me up. She said, "I'm going to tell your father when he gets home tonight, are you going to get it?" I thought, geez.
Like the world would end.
Yeah, brought back. That's how much credence she gave to my experience, or they call it a failure. I took the stove cover and I ripped it off of the stove. Told her I wanted a cigarette, God damn it. She left the apartment and went and bought a package of cigarettes. So
Did you ever think of going to med school after that, or that was?
I did. I went to the University of Illinois, but I couldn't concentrate. The only thing I liked was chemistry. But that, you've got to have other points like English 101 and all that stuff.